Hi. Power, narcissism, and the struggle for control in your romantic relationships. Well, what if your relationship struggles aren't about love, but about power? Now, power struggles in relationships with individuals with narcissistic personality disorder are not uncommon. It's like this tug of war. You're both going back and forth. You're both vying for that dominance or control for, and sometimes this is really true. Sometimes you may have this sense is that you are vying for comfort and stability in the relationship, and that can be in a form of control. Is that we're doing this tug of war back and forth, but I don't feel safe, so I'm going to keep engaging in it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because it could be that you have an internalized sense of fear, shame, doubt, guilt, or inferiority, which are common core content areas for individuals with BPD. And what happens is for you, if you don't have narcissistic personality disorder or traits, and you're in that relationship and you're in that tug of war, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but you're vying for the sense of safety, vying for the sense of understanding. And what happens in these narcissistic type of relationships, in these romantic relationships with individuals with narcissistic personality disorder, that there's this antagonistic fuel that comes out of the narcissism. And oftentimes it's to control the battle, exactly as I'm saying, which is that but the control isn't, it's for dominance, but the dominance is usually not just to sort of subjugate the other person, right? Make the other person, you're going to do what I say. But a lot of times it's for a sense of safety in the relationship. And a big issue with that is that it's hard to get safety in a relationship if that insecurity comes out of internalized fear, shame, doubt, guilt, and inferiority. Meaning that narcissism that actually fuels that antagonism that causes more problems in the relationship. Well, because the narcissistic core content continues to aggravate the interaction and really makes it very bitter, that it just continues to not only erode the relationship, but in a lot of cases, it can erode not only the partner's sense of self and understanding, but also the individual with narcissistic personality disorder who's struggling with all of that core content that I mentioned, also trying to feel a sense of safety. Now, they're not going to show it on the outside. You're going to think that he or she, well, they don't care. They're just fine. Let me tell you, the reality is on the inside, it is a chaos tornado. Spinning, 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 spinning. Absolutely. And that's where they get that energy to always be in that tug of war with you. If you're like, what? Don't you ever get tired of trying to vie for dominance? Imagine if that vie for dominance is based on a sense of survival. Imagine if you had to do something to save your kids. Would you run out of energy? Would you at one point be like, man, I'm tired? Well, hope it works out for the kids. No, you would go and go and go. Well, imagine if it was also for your own survival. If I don't do this, all of the air in my lungs is going to be sucked out, and I'm going to become this irrelevant, failed blob in life. Imagine that. That's often the internalized conceptualization of self for individuals with narcissistic personality disorder. And a lot of times they hold on to this idea that one person must win. And holding on to that view and that perspective pretty much leaves both individuals feeling unheard. You both feel dismissed, unaccepted, and unheard. Now, power affects relationships in a lot of different ways, right? You can imagine that it's like a teeter-totter, that kind of seesaw, right? Shifting between control, submission, and power seeking, which a lot of individuals with BPD, of course, engage in romantic relationships. It creates this instability and this emotional distance because you're always vying for that control, but you're also always trying to put the other person, you're trying to subjugate, like I said a moment ago, subjugate the other person, putting them into this submissive role. And they're like, no way, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get in it. Or they'll give in, which could be out of codependency, could be out of just lack of self-worth, fear of abandonment, whatever it may be. So when we see this going on and on, that this power creates this instability and emotional distance. So both partners, their well-being is negatively impacted. It wears away at who you are, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Leave a comment about how exhausting being in that power play type of relationship. I mean, leave comments. I have a lot of other videos on narcissistic personality disorder and relationships, and people often say that it just takes so much energy to stay in the ring because that's what it's like, right? It's like a boxing ring, and it's really, really complicated and really, really tough. It is very tough. And it's like withholding love can also be this form of control. And a lot of narcissists will do that. They'll freeze you out, the silent treatment. It's a very common play. There's passive aggressive, which is the silent treatment, but also withholding love, which is that, you know, I was gonna do A, B, and C, but because you said, did, thought, who knows what, now I'm not. That's your fault. And the partner over time, because you get worn away with your well-being, right, erodes, that you're eventually just like, yeah, that's probably me. We get worn down. But you got to break the cycle. You got to get up and push back. And this is replacing conflict with teamwork. Now that's tough. And a lot of times the partner that doesn't have narcissistic personality disorder is the one watching the video. Encourage your partner to sit in and watch. This isn't a video that just attacks individuals with narcissistic personality disorder. That doesn't help at all. Anything that says you have to break the narcissist, they're already broken. They're already dealing with guilt, shame, doubt, inferiority, right? And so they're dealing with these factors and these internalized factors. They're already having this sense of brokenness, but they've developed this this shell of narcissism to keep themselves safe. And in breaking the cycle, there's 3 steps, which is you got to spot the power plays, right? Are we competing or connecting? First and foremost, are you competing or connecting? And then how are you? How are you doing it? How is this being illustrated? And don't do it when you're in the middle of a fight. Don't do it. Strike when the iron's cold. Don't wait until you're both going at each other, right? Like 2 rams on a hill smashing into each other. Don't do that. That's not the time. That's when things are hot. We don't want to do when it's hot. We want to strike when the iron's cold. Then, number 2, you want to redefine what winning is. Healthy love isn't a zero-sum game. It isn't. Winning is when you both feel a connection with each other. You understand where the other one is coming from in a healthy way, and you want to support self and other to achieve the goals of the relationship, which a lot of times is forgiveness, acceptance, understanding, emotional expression that is genuine and caring. That's what a lot of people want, and it makes total sense. But if you're battling each other, you can't get there. So you got to define or redefine what winning is. It's not me subjugating you, right? It is about us being on an even plane and working together. And then you got to seek balance. Remember that both of your voices need to be heard. You both need to be heard. And this is where a mental health provider can come into play and can be really beneficial because they can work sort of like a moderator. And hopefully if the individual does have narcissistic traits or full narcissistic personality disorder, work with someone who understands narcissism and they understand that there's a grandiose type and a vulnerable type. So it's overt and covert. Those are both the same thing. They're just, overt is grandiose, covert is vulnerable. But the mental health provider has to be aware of both, because if they're not, a lot of times mental health providers won't see the vulnerable narcissism and they'll get caught up in it and think, wow, they'll over empathize with that person. And then the partner is like, what's going on here? It's 2 against 1. This stinks. Right? So you have to make sure that the couples therapist that they understand the different aspects of narcissism. And it's okay to ask them that question. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you ask that question and they get upset, it's probably not somebody you want to work with. So that's important too. And remember, real love isn't about power. It's about partnership. It's about working together. And how can you do that? Right? Have you ever felt stuck in a relationship that's based on a power struggle? Leave a comment. Let other people know. If so, how did you deal with it? Sometimes people feel like, you know what? I had to walk away. There was a no-win situation. Sometimes that is, and that stinks. I get it. I get it. You had hopes for the relationship. It didn't work out. Sometimes that happens. But in other cases, people have found ways to make it work. And that doesn't mean make it work with you being subjugated, getting beaten up by the individual with narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder. That you both are being heard, that you both are winning, that you guys are working together to achieve a goal. It's not based in conflict and being afraid of any mistakes you might make, that your partner is going to be like, oh, you stink, you did that. It's going to dive in and get you, right? This isn't hitting you, because that's completely inappropriate, right? But it's just, verbally, right, attacking you is what I mean. I mean by this. So please leave those comments. Let me know your thoughts. I know it's really helpful to others to see those thoughts and how you dealt with it too. So please leave some comments, and I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.